Coming up, Stacey Abrams' corrupt $1.9 billion payment. Democrat Representative Al Green plays the race victim, and I will relate a very funny story from my time in Parliament with regard to that, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on why there will be no recession. President Trump on Stacey Abrams' payment.
$1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her?
President Trump talks about the last-minute payment to a group that Stacey Abrams was involved with. You may recall that a Democrat EPA executive spoke in the last days of the Biden administration about throwing $20 billion of so-called gold bars overboard to NGOs to make things more difficult for the Trump government in terms of trying to account for and retrieve that money. Well, a $1.9 billion gold bar landed in Stacey Abrams' lap in the last days of the Biden administration. Her organisation had only received $100 the year prior. She tried to sell why the payment was justified.
In 2023 and 2024, I led a program called Vitalizing DeSoto. We worked in a tiny town in South Georgia to demonstrate that by replacing energy inefficient appliances with efficient appliances, you can lower your cost. And in fact, we accomplished that. For 75% of the community, they got appliances that are lowering their bills right now.
Wow, how groundbreaking. I never would have guessed that an energy efficient appliance would cost less than a less energy efficient appliance. I wonder how many PhD studies they had to fund to find that out. And then, of course, they had to run a pilot program to demonstrate the bleeding obvious. If you get the idea that this is corrupt and an absolute abuse of hard-working taxpayers' hard-earned money, you would be right. If you enjoy this content, please like, share and subscribe. Abrams continues.
And said to the EPA, if we can do this here, we can do this for millions more Americans. Let us invest the money of America in lowering the cost for Americans. And the EPA said, okay, great, go for it. And they then granted those dollars to this coalition of organizations who came together.
Abrams tries to make out that there was a formal process with the EPA, a legitimate process. But as we know from the Veritas Uncovered report with the interview with that EPA executive, we know that there was nothing legitimate about the process. This was about throwing $20 billion at Democrat beneficiaries, of which Abrams and her group were but one. Seriously, $1.9 billion simply to tell people that energy efficient appliances will save on energy costs. I would be very happy to do the same job that Abrams claims to be doing for 1,000th of the cost. Someone please, I'm here. You can contact me quite easily. Just put a note in the comments. That would be just as legitimate as this process that Abrams and the EPA followed. And the Democrats have the audacity to shout and scream about Doge. And then we have Representative Al Green, who was thrown out of Congress where President Trump spoke.
Yelled, you lie. You had Justice Alito with his expression saying not true, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene there with that confrontation with Biden. None of them were censured nor escorted out. Is this a reflection of the climate that we are in right now? What is the difference here of how what your experience was versus theirs?
Thank you for the question. The climate of which you speak is one that I have lived in for most of my life. I'm a son of the segregated South. The rights that were enshrined in the Constitution for me my friends and neighbors denied me. I had to go to the back door, drink from a colored water fountain, sit in the back of the bus, and I had relatives who were locked up in the bottom of the jail.
Green here is just playing the victim and being a race huckster. He blames a society that has not existed in America for the last 60 years. He does this because he was deservedly thrown out. He behaved inappropriately. And I agree, others have behaved inappropriately in the past. But the difference here is that Speaker Mike Johnson warned him that he would be thrown out if he continued. He continued and was deservedly thrown out. Green continues.
I have acclimated to this kind of behavior, but quite candidly, it is a double standard and it is a form of invidious discrimination. But I was prepared to suffer whatever the consequences are when I decided that I would engage in this peaceful protest.
Green continues to assert that he was treated differently and that if he had been white, he would not have been thrown out. This is nonsense. Anyone would have been thrown out under these conditions. And here I will relate a story from my time in Parliament. At the time, Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister. Kevin Rudd is now, unfortunately, the Australian ambassador to the United States. And Kevin Rudd would ramble on in Parliament. So I wrote on a piece of paper, and we had the press gallery up to our right. And I wrote on the piece of paper, board, ? And showed it up to the press gallery. Then I wrote up on a piece of paper, arrogant, relating to Kevin Rudd, and showed that to the press gallery. And Speaker Harry Jenkins saw me holding up the piece of paper, which was inappropriate, and initially, under what's Order 94A in the Australian Parliament, I was to remove myself for an hour. This was on Thursday afternoon, the last day of sittings. So, and about an hour before Parliament ended. So anyhow, one of my colleagues shouted out to me, "Dennis, what did it say?" So I said to him, "Arrogant." Harry Jenkins, the Speaker, having heard me say arrogant, then named me, which means that there's a big vote taken and you're thrown out for 24 hours. Now that wasn't deserved because I was not calling the Speaker arrogant, but he thought that I did. I later on explained it in private to him and he went a bit easy on me after that. But the point is, I never went to the media or anything else saying how undeserving my treatment was. I certainly wasn't going to play any stupid race card or anything similar. So Green was fully deserving of the treatment that he got. And then we have Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on tariffs.
Canada is supposed to have a free trade agreement with us.
Yeah.
250% on dairy products. It's outrageous, and you know the president's going to respond to it, but he's agreed not to respond until April 2nd.
Okay, so no tariffs this week in that regard. We'll wait till April 2nd.
Lutnick says that there will be no reciprocal tariffs until April the 2nd. The point here is that tariffs on Mexico and Canada at present relate to fentanyl crossing the border. The reciprocal tariffs are basically a tit-for-tat measure. You tariff us, we will tariff you the same amount. So trading partners have time, although short, to begin negotiating with the Trump administration on tariffs, stating what they will do on the tariffs that they have imposed on the US. And Lutnick continues.
Your home will come smashing down. We're going to drill, baby, drill and drive down the price of energy. That's coming down. So these two massive moves are going to happen. And you know who's going to pay for that? Tariffs and outside countries who just leech off of us, lean on us, earn money off of us. They've got to start to pay. President Trump wants the American people to start to understand the External Revenue Service should start to pay. Yes, some products that are made foreign might be more expensive, but American products will get cheaper.
Lutnick talks about prices coming down. He talks about drill, baby, drill in terms of energy prices. The part that I like the reference to is tariffs as a form of an external revenue service. This is clever terminology. It is good that he acknowledges that some things will get more expensive, particularly during the settling in phase. And he talks of tariffs being removed.
They're going to come down because President Trump has said, you want to charge us 100%? We're going to charge you 100%. And you know what they say? They say, no, don't charge us 100%. We'll bring ours down. We'll unleash America out to the world, grow our economy in a way we've never grown before. You are going to see over the next 2 years the greatest set of growth coming from America as Americans. You saw it, 1.3 trillion of new investment coming in America. Think of all those jobs. And remember, each trillion of investment in America is 1% of growth GDP. So Donald Trump is bringing growth to America. I would never bet on recession. No chance.
Lutnick states why he believes that America will not have a recession. The first point is that the threat and the possible implementation of reciprocal tariffs means that many countries will agree to remove tariffs so that there will be no tariffs either way. In other words, genuinely free trade agreements, not the current so-called free trade agreements, which in reality are just negotiated trade agreements. Then we have Democratic Senator Elissa Slotnick on the Democrat state at present.
Eyes on you, Senator. Who would you say is the leader of the Democratic Party right now?
Look, I mean, people know me. I'm pretty straightforward. I don't think it's a secret that Democrats have been on their heels since Trump won the election, right? I don't think that's something hidden. And I think it's on us to be clear about not only leadership, and there's lots of leaders in both parties, but also a strategy, right? And I think that's something that as Trump has been successful in flooding the zone and just like every day, 15 things happening, we are still finding our footing.
Slotnick states that she recognises that the Democrats are on their heels. More importantly, she states that what too many Democrats will not acknowledge, and that is that the Democrats need a focus on strategy and policy. At present, Trump is completely outplaying the Democrats and keeping them on their back feet. What do you think of Al Green's race victim card? Please let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.